are alpha chads born or made? What do you think?
Bro, I feel like guys naturally, as a kid, you are born kind of with that alpha essence where you want to jump on the table, you want to do whatever you want to do. And I feel like society slowly beats you down. I think Kanye talked about this as well, where it's like, the kid wants to jump on top of a coffee table and he gets yelled at repeatedly and then he stops. But what's actually wrong with it? Nothing. It's just the fact that it's exactly, but society has conditioned people, and especially guys, to act a certain way. And I really think that guys in their most natural state of being is not giving a fuck about anything. It's very childlike behavior. And when you compare childlike behavior to being an alpha male, it's very fucking similar.
Well, I think it's really more like self-importance.
Yes.
Like I was just talking about this a little while ago. People asked me about to define. Oh, I know what it was. I was asked to define this on Manect, by the way. In case you are wondering, yes, I do Manect now. I got a question on Manect not too long ago. Now, if you don't know what Manect is, you can text me. You can, if you have one question for me, it's kind of like being able to give me a super chat any time of day. But if you look at the, I think it's the third link down in the description here. But Manect will allow you to text me. You can get a video reply. You can get an audio reply if you want to do if you want to do any kind of online counseling stuff. I'm going through Manect right now, so check that out. But I got a text from a guy asking me how to define mental point of origin. Right. And so it was a good opportunity to be able to sort of rehash that out. And so when I'm talking about mental point of origin, it's not like being a self-centered prick. It's not being selfish, right? It's making yourself the first thing that jumps into your brain. Right? When you're faced with a decision, when you're faced with just things that you need to do, things that you want to do. Yep. And so if you have new data that comes into your brain, you're the first person you consider before you consider anybody else, right? That's a whole lot different than the Tony Robbins kind of bullshit where it's but think of yourself first. You got to make yourself number one. That's not what it means. What it means is really psychologically, mentally training yourself, conditioning yourself to make yourself the first thing that jumps into your head. That's not don't think about other people. It means think about yourself first and then think about other people.
Yeah, because there's no way you can help other people unless you have helped yourself, right?
Exactly. And that goes with the concept of enlightened self-interest, which is you can't help others until you can help yourself.
Yep.
And you can't help others as well as when you help yourself first, right?
Yep.
So it's always the concept of when the stewardess tells you that the air mask is going to drop out if there's a decline in cabin pressure, right? You always put your mask on first before you help little Johnny or grandma put it on, because if you're dead, they're dead. Right? Yep. That's the it's bonehead stupid, but that's really the basic concept of enlightened self-interest. You have to help yourself first before you can help other people, because if you're dead, other people are dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a life or death situation. Now think about it in terms of am I going to take this job? Am I going to go to this college? Am I going to change my life for this chick? Or am I going to think about mommy first, my girlfriend first, my potential girlfriend first, my potential wife first? And too many guys end up sort of pre-cucking themselves or pre-whipping themselves, and they won't make decisions based on the fact that they're already thinking of people before the other people before themselves, which gets back to your point is we teach our boys to be defective girls these days. And part of that, or say the main part of that, is crushing out that mental point of origin that I think really, in boys in particular, I'm not saying that girls are very solipsistic, so they're already thinking about themselves and everybody kisses their ass from day one. But I think what we do, at least in the last probably 60 years or so, we've had this concentrated effort to socially re-engineer masculinity, and that starts at age 5 when the kid is this tall, and most of his teachers from preschool all the way up to around are going to be women.
Yep.
And so what are they going to do? They're going to teach him to defer to women, to defer to the authority of women, to want to be a pleaser of women, to think of women before they think of themselves, and to be a good provider, to be a servant leader, if you want to put it in religious terms and stuff. And so this just this complex of social engineering and behavioral conditioning. That's why I always refer to if you're a blue pill, I always talk about blue pill in terms of conditioning, blue pill conditioning, as opposed to alpha, beta, red pill, blue pill, whatever. And by the way, I think it might be time to reestablish this, because I keep seeing people use this all the time. when I talk about alpha and when I talk about beta and when I talk about red pill and when I talk about blue pill, I'm talking about them in specific instances that relate only to intersexual dynamics. Okay. I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about philosophy. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about, social, social studies and shit like that. I'm talking about one fucking thing. And yes, I understand that alpha and beta are indistinct terms. Like people can put whatever the fuck they want to. When I am using those terms, I'm using them as abstractions. They are placeholders for want of a better term.
Sure.
Too many people think, well, people don't really call out, scientists don't call them in alphas, and I just go with it, okay? Please, just for one fucking second. Well, so I every now and then I have to reiterate that because people will say, like, well, we'll probably talk about alphas and betas and right now.
Yeah.
So I want to set that out there because too many people get too fucking confused. But so if I say, and like he was just saying, an alpha mindset, is it learnable or is it something that's teachable, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say both. Okay, so personality is actually there's genetic markers for personality. Okay, it is determined your personality and your proclivities and your propensities for certain things. If you're going to talk about like the big 5 personality traits: agreeableness, conscientiousness. I forget the other 3, but if you look at the big 5 personality traits, those are all directly linked to genetics or to genes expression or multiple expressions of different small genes making a bigger difference, right? So with that in mind, then you've also got to take into consideration the environment, but the environment plays a much smaller role than actually your genetics. So can you be born an alpha? Sure. But you can be born an alpha and to a condition like we are now where your teachers are all female and they want to psychologically condition you to repress that alphaness.
Yep. It's done on purpose, bro.
And it's done on purpose.
It's not
and
an
it's
accident.
hard to do for some and easier to do for others.
Yep.
But I would agree with you on those terms, is that when you have a child, children are innately selfish, right?
Yeah.
So
I know this firsthand because when my parents were together, until I was like 7, they got divorced. But when my parents were together, when I was in school for, when my parents were together for those like 3 years, whatever, I do just remember me like interacting with a lot of girls when I was little, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just not really giving a fuck. And a lot of girls always trying to talk to my mom when she's picking me up, like, oh, I really like Logan. He's, whatever it may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was little. And then when my parents got divorced, I think slowly over time when I was living with my mom, because you're gonna go with your mom if your parents get divorced, is what it is. I didn't have a choice, but yeah, so my mom moved to a different state, and then she took me. And when I was living with my mom, like my ability to kind of interact with women went down, and my ability to maintain a little bit longer interactions with women went down, right? Because they had initial attraction. I was a good-looking kid, right? I've always been, but a lot of these girls would lose attraction because I'd start simping or I'd start becoming weak. I didn't understand why, and I was always taking advice from my mom, right? And all this,
yeah.
And then when I was around 13, 14, I was like, I had the choice to go move back in with my dad, and so I was like, I want to go back to California, live with my dad, and everything started becoming way better, right? Like my interactions with women started becoming way better. My confidence started going up. My interactions with just people in general and business and making money just went up. So yeah, I mean, most guys who have that same experience where their parents got divorced, they started living with their mom, or they still are living with their mom. It's very obvious. And that's actually the first thing I ask guys when I'm coaching guys is, what was your parents' relationship like? Are your parents divorced? Are they together? Because I could easily figure out and because I know from firsthand this happened to me, so I understand that it is trainable and it is conditioned through your environment.
I get a lot of I see this a lot in the quote unquote manosphere now, and I put that in scare quotes because I don't even really know what to call it at this point. But when I'm seeing stuff, especially like from the more notorious people, like for Pearl, let's just say, which is talking about how women raise worse children than single moms raise worse children than, and that's a statistical.
It's true.
I mean, if you go and you don't even have to go to, I was thinking not Richard Reeves. Oh, it's Dr. Warren Farrell. He has a book called The Boy Crisis. And say what you want about Dr. Farrell. I kind of like Dr. Farrell quite a bit. He was actually, if people say, well, when did you get red pilled, Rollo? It's like, it was a very slow, like, I don't think there was one incident that made me sort of red pill. But One book that sort of opened my eyes to a lot of things was something that Warren Farrell wrote way back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And it's like people always think of his books as like The Myth of Male Power, which is a great book. But there's a book that came before that, and it's called Why Men Are the Way They Are. And that was the first time I ever read some guy saying, you know what? Things aren't quite as like organized as women would like us to think, you know. And it was really sort of the germ of the idea, I think, of the red pill and understanding like hypergamy and intersexual dynamics. Now, granted, it's Dr. Warren Farrell, and his solutions are very feminist, right? But his observations and his statistics, very well done. And he's nothing else. He's a consummate statistician. So in The Boy Crisis, he says, hey, look, single fathers do better than single moms. And you can't argue with the stats. I get that. But I will also say this is like, I've said on several occasions that men and women are innate natural complements to one another. So if you have a conventionally female, feminine mother, and you have a conventionally strong, conventionally masculine father, you have two models for femininity and for masculinity. And it's even better if you're like, if you're a male child and you have a female sister or something like that, there's that dynamic that's going on between the two of them as well. So they're like, I'll just give an example. My niece and my nephew, for example, they have a great understanding of sort of gender dynamics because my niece and my nephew would like play fight and beat each other up kind of thing. So my niece has a good understanding of male nature through her brother, and my nephew has a good understanding because of my niece. So there's that is, I would say, is a pretty much an advantage family wise. But when I see guys who are like I was raised by my dad. Like my parents split up when I don't think I've ever said this. My parents split up when I was 8 or 9 years old. Okay, I think
close to my
age. So my mom was sort of this lovable ditz, and my dad was a very down to earth, very pragmatic, very like what Vox Day would call a delta male. He's like, just go in, do an honest day's work on honest day's pay kind of thing. Very rational, very analytical. And so I think that's where I kind of got, both sides of my personality. Well, at least encouraging some parts of my personality from the two of them. But I think that when you like, I've been given this sort of hypothetical before where guys will tell me, Roll, I want to be a single dad. Like if I could do like, no, seriously, they will say this, like they're coming out with birthing pods or something like that. I'm like, dude, come on. And or more practically, they'll say, I'm gonna find a surrogate mom. She's gonna be the egg. I'm gonna give her. I don't have to have sex with her, whatever. She'll be artificially inseminated, and she'll have my child. And I'm gonna pay her to do this, carry the child to term, and then I will adopt. It will be my child, right? Okay,
interesting.
Very rare. Like that's the thinking, right? Whether or not it actually happens, I doubt it, right? I mean, they probably just go fuck and then ask. I mean, that's usually the way. But
sounds cheaper.
It's a whole lot cheaper. It's much more efficient, but. Long story short, these guys wanted to be like voluntarily be single fathers. And I go, why would you? I will give you the same like tongue lashing I will give, a single mom, right? Especially if she wants to be, you're hobbling that child by eliminating a conventionally female influence in that child's life. And the same thing, like it's more common with women because women can just go have kids like, like breed like rabbits if they want to, right? They can go to a fertility clinic and voluntarily, electively become pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Or, was it 42% of children are born out of wedlock right now? Or you can go and get a sperm donor and, and go that way off the black market sperm market, I guess is what we call it. But I would say the same thing to them. I say, you're going to be sort of personality wise, you'll be hobbling that child. Now you might be a better parent than a woman, but you're still taking away that side or that understanding of the conventionally feminine from that kid in his upbringing. So I think it happens probably a whole lot more. It's much more rare because most guys can't get sole custody unless the woman is like a criminal, she's insane, she's in drugs, or she's dead, right?
That's the only it's an even battle when she's like that. It's fucking crazy.
So that's why I don't think you see that instance very often.
Yeah,
but I think you'd probably be doing the same exact thing.